Lebanon is a Middle Eastern country that was originally controlled by France after World War I, but eventually gained its freedom in the year 1944. Bordering Syria to the north and west and Israel to the south, the official name of the country is the Lebanese Republic. It currently has a population of 6 million people. Languages spoken are English and Armenian, with the most dominant spoken languages being French and Arabic. With a population made up of mostly Christian and Islamic beliefs, it has a literacy rate of 86.4%. Now that we have some information and background information on Lebanon, we can delve deeper into the government that helped create it. Today, Lebanon is made up of a unitary multi-party republic with a parliamentary system. The 1989 Taif Accord made it to where the parliamentary seats are broken up equally between Christian and Muslim groups. Unwritten rule states that the president must be a Maronite Christian, the premier a Sunni Muslim, and the Speaker of the National Assembly a Shia Muslim. To understand the current media climate, we must look at the French, Syrian, Israel influence in Lebanon over the years. Lebanon was known for having the first printing press in the Middle East during Ottoman rule, owned by the Maronite monks. This was before they lost control after World War I. So from 1920 to 1922, after World War I, League of Nations grants mandates for Lebanon and Syria to France after the Ottoman Empire is broken up. 1926, Lebanese Representative Council approves a constitution in the unified Lebanese Republic under the French Mandate. French Mandate lasts till 1944 when Syria and Lebanon emerge as two independent countries. France hands over power to both countries so they can govern themselves and remove troops. Newspapers were the highest used form of news media at the time and had free rein to do and say what they wanted. It was also a way to educate the people about the opposing parties. Asafir, the Messenger, and An-Nahar, the Day, were two of the most popular newspaper companies at the time. So from 1975 to 1990, there was a civil war. Turmoil in the country lasted for many years, and there was unease among the citizens due to favoritism within the government when the country was under French control. This in turn started a civil war that would last from 1975 to 1990. During this time, the government would be broken, massacres ensued, city destroyed, which resulted in an estimated 120,000 fatalities, and it was followed by years of social and political instability. So media post-independence. Lebanon sits at the 107th spot when it comes to freedom of press, and that is due to the strict regulations put onto TV and radio stations by the government. Most TV and radio stations are privately owned and most have huge political influences. A very large number of private radio and television stations was established for such a small country, taking advantage of the chaos and the absence of the rule of law. They were all platforms aiming to voice the various ideological and sectarian beliefs of their representative paramilitary backers. Newspapers post-independence still had free rein to say and do what they wanted. Media freedom is enshrined in the Constitution, although curbs forbid the media from defaming the president or other heads of state and from inciting sectarian strife. Lebanon does encourage the people to read news and educate themselves, but only to a certain degree. As of 2019, the country has 5.5 million internet users, being one of the first Middle Eastern countries to have 3.8 million people on Facebook, 10 national TV stations, with Tele Lebanon being the most watched, dozens of radio stations with BBC Arabic and Radio France International being the top. But do not be fooled, most of the TV and radio stations are privately owned. One of the biggest problems journalists are facing nowadays is the constant threats and violence brought on by government officials or police to try and stop journalists from doing their jobs. Some have even fled the country for fear of being put in jail or killed over the news they report. This all stems from the broken government that cannot take care of their people, so the journalists report on this and then their lives are threatened. The U.S. sits at 44 on the Freedom Press list, while Lebanon sits at 107. Even though Lebanon is super low on the list, in the past the country is doing rather well for being a Middle Eastern country. But as time has passed, Lebanon has fallen to the same strict guidelines we can see in some of their neighboring countries. The difference between the two countries is infrastructure and money, which Lebanon is lacking due to the many wars that have ravaged the place. The future for Lebanon seems bleak because they can never seem to catch a break when it comes to mass tragedies and the forever broken government. Many journalists are still fighting for the rights to report news that tell the whole truth without fearing for their lives. I suppose as people gain more access to the internet and are able to read more news from outside of their country, it might make people feel the need to stand up for what is right. We can only hope that this does not lead to another war for this country.